Okay, we're live. Good morning and the good early evening in Netherlands, and we'll tell you why we're saying that. This is Greg Gloria, aka Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerdstalker Media Network. Today we talk with Hessel van Oorschot, the chief noisemaker, as they call him, the tribe of noise. Hessel's no stranger to the Nerdstalker crew here. We met Hessel at SF New Tech during their Dutch pitch event, a few years ago now. I can't believe it, actually. And if you don't know the Tribe of Noise, they help indie musicians get noticed and even get paid. And it's as simple as that. It's a service. And we wanted to catch up with him because he has some new things that we wanted to talk about here on Nerdstalker, and wanted to catch up and discuss some of those things directly with the Chief Noisemaker. Anyway, good morning, Chief Noisemaker Hessel, and welcome to Nerdstalker live from Amsterdam, Netherlands, right?
Good morning and good afternoon here, Greg. No, it's really nice to be in your show again. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Good. Doing okay. We were talking offline. The buzz here is the election. In fact, what I was reading something on the media organization that I just wanted to bring this up real quick is that because we're going to talk about media, is that all the brands are complaining right now here because all the election people are buying up media time. and so they're actually complaining they can't get any traction during this period. So they're just going to wait it out until the election starts. So it's interesting. But we're going to talk about today something really new that you guys have actually launched, and new but old at the same time, right? It's just a different way of doing things. But anyway, we noticed that you made some interesting announcements last month, and this thing Bizmusiq and a joint venture with music publisher Stranghold. So can you talk about that?
Sure. Now, it was really funny. Like, I think two and a half years ago, I met the CEO of one of the oldest indie publishers, music publishers in the Netherlands, Stranghold. And at a music conference that was called the Future Music Forum in Barcelona, so in Spain. And it's all about people looking forward, looking at the new industry and saying, like, how can we help each other to really reinvent the industry, or at least transform the industry into new business models. I met the CEO, there was a click, we kept in touch, and roughly 2 years later, we said, like, what we have to do, because the whole world is moving into user-generated content, and as you know, a traditional publisher, of course, is normally only working on creating content, not really facilitating content. So they are in this transformation process. We already have done that, but we still need, like, strong partners to align and help musicians to make it to the next step in all kinds of directions. So more directions, the better. So after 2 years, we said, like, why don't we join forces and start with something really simple that people can touch and use, and that's Bizmusiq. And Bizmusiq is basically a Spotify for business environments. So a music service for restaurants, bars, hotels, retail outlets, shops that can play music in their store. We start with the traditional tribe, it's almost traditional, with the Tribe of Noise repertoire. So rights included, you don't have to pay the performing rights organizations for playing the music. The money that we collect from subscriptions goes, part of that goes back to the artists that are participating in those music shows that we feature. And then going on from that principle, we will start to also make programs with, for example, the music that Stranghold represents in the Netherlands from very known artists and DJs and producers. Or we can move into other directions where we say, like, why don't we mix up traditional music from known people that you hear on the national radio, but combine that with completely unknown artists, so that we have music programs with both featured. And this is a business model for them to directly get in touch with the end users, with people paying for the subscription, so the companies, get that feedback and create new business models from lessons learned. Because normally publishers, if you look at Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora in the United States, normally the publishers is always somewhere at the back of the supply chain. So they never get that feedback from the end user, like, is that music being played? Is there generating any money? That's normally the
Oh,
music label.
interesting. Wow.
So that's basically, for them it's a learning curve, and Bizmusiq is just tip of the iceberg, because we have like a lot of things on the shelf that we want to test drive with them and also launch.
Mm.
Um, so this is just the tip of the iceberg, and for us it's also to continue to build new relationships with known companies and music publishers, who are in this transition phase, who just need to change.
Well, let's step back a little bit and
Yeah.
explain. You know, why can't Spotify and Pandora do these business things, kind of like what you're talking about? I mean, or can they? You know.
On paper, of course they can. If you have rights holders in the beginning, and if you have a distribution network like Spotify, and you have customers like shops and hotels and all the other ones, then of course on paper you can connect the dots and say like, okay, music coming in, Spotify is doing its magic, selling subscriptions to businesses, getting the money back to the rights holders. So that ecosystem, as we've built it in the last couple of years with Tribe of Noise, is something that Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music could do themselves. It starts to become a little bit more difficult if you look at the politics behind music rights, because for example, if you want to broadcast music as Spotify to stores, what will actually happen is Spotify will need a broadcast license like a radio station has. This is also the same thing that you always see on the American news with Pandora and
Mm.
with Sirius XM. They're always bargaining with ASCAP and BMI to get a better deal, so that in the end, if they sell subscription, they can get some money in. So the politics, the licensing for big companies that are out there with already like Spotify, I think they have like 100 million end users at the moment, so a lot. So they are really like, in the spotlights. Everybody looks at Spotify and Apple Music and what's going to happen. So for them to change overnight and say like, oh, by the way, if we license this in a different way, we can also do all these business models on the other side. That's pretty complicated. The good news is that Spotify is doing test runs on their home market. So in Scandinavia, they're doing test runs. So it is something that they're looking into. But yeah, what we try to do is, do it with unknown artists, so that even unknown artists get money. And
Right.
also figure out if there are like, specific small markets that are really interested in high quality content, beautiful music programs, and where just normal average radio shows are not good enough, because they want that specific sound for a specific target audience.
And what's happened now? I mean, not now, but I mean, and in the way that, like you're saying, that since Spotify and Pandora really cater to the end user, you really, as a business, cannot use Spotify or Pandora over your speakers in your business, right?
No, you need a different license, and then still, even if you have a country where they would allow that different license, so for example in Scandinavia and Sweden they have that different license, then still you have to pay, as a business owner, you still have to pay for broadcasting to your audience again. So in some cases, the business owners just think it's too expensive, and in Europe it's even a bit more complicated, because we have more rights organizations than you guys have in the States. And in the States, we think it's even simplified. So go ahead. But in Europe, you have like, every single country has its own performing rights organization, neighboring rights organization. In best cases, some of these countries talk to each other. So in best cases, if you have like a retail store in several countries, you can actually, make one deal for those countries. But in general, if I look at a big chain like Subway, for example, with all these franchisees in all these different countries. In Europe, you would have to make all these different contracts with all the rights organizations. That will just take you a lot of time. Are you still there, Greg? Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, it's that bandwidth we were talking about earlier. In the middle of
No.
Silicon Valley, I don't have bandwidth around here. Anyway, it's interesting. So what? This is just, I'm not into this licensing thing like you are in, but for me as an end user and just looking at the overall picture, it seems like we only replaced radio with Spotify and Pandora. I mean, I that's the way I'm looking at it. I mean, the model hasn't changed.
No, but Greg, that really is a big difference. It's really no, it is a big difference. So even if you just say let's swap radio for Spotify, if you look at the licensing models and who's getting paid for what, and the transparency between capturing data and that Spotify can actually tell like this subscriber was listening on a Friday afternoon at 12:30 to that specific song. So with that data, and that's like a lot of data, if you have like 100 million people listening in on your service, that's a lot of data. But that data would be so perfect for like an open model where you can say like, this artist will, we will pay, or the rights holders, because what they normally do is they pay out through the rights organizations to labels and publishers, and then the labels and publishers have a deal, of course, with the composers and the singer-songwriters, and with the lyricists. So they will divide the money to them. But still, that transparency is a huge deal. If in the upcoming years, if we can replace a traditional system where everything is closed to, a more open, transparent, accountable system where all the money collected is actually being forwarded to the rights holders, yeah, that would be amazing. So I think people working at even SoundCloud, Spotify, Deezer, Pandora, if they can just make a fist and say like, we will help you to create that transparency in the music space, and we will actually help YouTube. Same thing, YouTube is the largest music player on the planet, and like by far. So if they are willing to share the data, and the other, it always works two sides. So if the other parties are willing to accept that data and use that data into the supply chain and all the information sharing, then that's a huge step forward.
I guess, yeah, you're right. That is the biggest difference between radio, which is just airwaves, right? I mean, you have a radio, you just go wherever, and wherever it picks it up. But the value is in the data. I didn't think about this. It's like if you had subscription radio, I guess. I mean that seems kind of odd these days. I can't even think about that actually. But if you had, I guess like XM radio, Sirius was the first one to kind of go there, right?
Yeah.
Right. And where they had this captured data model where they had users, they knew about the users, and they could deliver content that they licensed into those users, right?
Yeah, and I know they're doing, so Sirius XM, iHeartRadio, another one, they're doing like a beautiful job in trying to capture all that data. One of my other companies is building the Sonos applications for some of these companies. And when we were building the code, they were like all over us, on top of us, to say like, if people skip a song or click through a song or whatever, we have to capture that data, because if people listen for 15 songs for 15 seconds to a specific song, that's a different licensing model than if people listen from start to finish to a full track. But we need that data to be as transparent as possible, and make sure that on our end we at least have all the data available to pay the artist and to get like fair pay for fair play. So and that model is improving, getting better. but you will need you need all the parties involved to make that happen. So hopefully it does, and hopefully like models like Bizmusiq, where we have that section from content owners to the loudspeakers at your local store. We know everything that's going on in the pipeline. Hopefully more of these concepts pop up and help to transition into new data models where people are getting paid.
That's where you're absolutely right. I mean, in the digital space, you actually have control of all of that data, or you can have the potential of the control. But I think in your model, which is interesting, is that you're democratizing everything by just saying, "Hey, as an indie musician, you now have as much opportunity, you know, as someone else who's signed through a label to have your music listened to, which is really the bottom line, right?"
Yeah, but
I mean,
I didn't come up with that idea. I mean, user-generated content is just that's here. That's YouTube. That's Twitter. That's all these beautiful services out there, and together, all of us, also you with this broadcast, we are creating the content of today and the future. So of course there are a few happy, top-notch producers, musicians, whatever, who can spend quality time in beautiful studios, and work for 2 or 3 years on an album. But fact of life, most of the content that we consume today, that brands are using in their campaigns, it's all user-generated content, and it's just great stuff. It's the stuff that you and I relate to. It's the stuff that I want to share with my friends. So in general, if we wouldn't use indie artist or your next door neighbor to allow them, to facilitate music to our platform, then we that wouldn't be fair, because that's it's not even the future. That's today.
It is today. I mean, that's why we're able to even doing what we're doing today. Like you said, it's interesting is that I think we were talking offline is that the old model's really not only struggling, but it's only trying to hold on very tightly. Even in what I like about your channel is that as an independent film producer or video producer, I could take user generated content that you guys have on your channel and move it into my content to create even bigger content now. But when you see these feature films that are really put out by studios, they have such a grasp on even the music realm around that they force a lot of these guys to say, okay, if we're going to do this feature film, you got to use our music content, for any overlay on top of the film. I mean, because Sony could do it, right? I mean, Universal could do this, right? It's amazing.
I don't see that it doesn't have to disappear, and we are in a transition phase. So I guess that we still relate to high-end, beautiful recorded content. Some of us, because if you look at some of the generations, like the millennials, why is an app like Musical.ly so popular? Because people from that age already think that 15 seconds of a song actually is a new format. So where we would say, listen to a 3.5 minute song, they think 15 seconds is good enough. So that's also something we shouldn't forget, that I'm already of, a generation that still, I wouldn't even buy a CD anymore, but at least I would listen to a full track, beginning to the end. New generation listens to 15 seconds and just skips to the next song, and they're okay with it.
Interesting. You're right. I mean, yeah, you're right. God, I never thought about it that way. Is that this short blast content, almost commercial length, is good enough? Wow,
it is good. Just go on a bus or drive the subway and just look over somebody's shoulder how they go through a Facebook page, and it's like with their thumb, they scroll up, and even pictures aren't interested anymore. So it's like a moving picture, like a short video of somebody that they know. So and unfortunately, that's the value of music as well. Music doesn't have any value. People won't pay for music as it is, just like buying, like iTunes, like let's buy a track, that's disappearing quite fast. But music is a very strong enabler of getting an emotion across, or an enabler to together with video, to really make a difference. So there will always be value in music, but we just have to figure out, and you can only do that by doing. So I'm so glad with a music publisher like Stranghold, there aren't that many around that say like, let's do this. Let's try some of these models out, throw it away the ones that don't work for us, and spend more money on the ones that do work, and move forward in the transitional phase, because that's actually the only way where you can learn, by doing. You see a couple of these companies out there, like Cobalt in Europe, which is a big in the space, is always like for many of us a role model, because they come with apps showing like how much money you made. Underneath, unfortunately, still there's a traditional system. So there's a traditional system, for example, that pays out every 3 months, but it's presented to me like an app that I can check like almost dynamically if I made money today. Unfortunately, if I check in a month, it's the same amount of money. But at least they're trying with new apps, open communication. They try to get the music maker involved and move content and digital concepts and transparency to a higher level. That's what I love about companies like Cobalt, and that's also what I love about a company like Stranghold, that they will just embrace technology, data, people with new ideas, and I guess the ones that say like, it's all mine, it's closed, nobody can touch it without paying. They have to or rethink, or they will probably die somewhere down the line. Don't know. Don't know if it takes 5 years or 10 years, but that's not a model to say like, let's do the same thing that we did yesterday and let's keep doing that for the upcoming 10 years. That's not the world we're living.
Yeah, it's a fun and exciting time. I mean, you bring up a very good point of user-generated content. I mean, that's how, Internet Stars, I was telling you offline, Internet Stars created a movie called FML, right? I mean, so I mean, it's not put on by a major, studio, but at the same time, they were able to create it, and it was low budget, but it was really good. I mean, so you're absolutely right about user-generated content, and it's small bites. If you don't grab the person's attention, they're not going to listen to the whole thing anyway. So, so
there's actually one word, and it's relevant. Because if we are no longer relevant to the end users, or no longer relevant to the companies that were actually buying our music rights, then we shouldn't exist. So as long as we can stay relevant, as long as we can use data to predict how to stay relevant, I think that's key. We really have to listen to end users and people, consumers, consuming content. What do you want? Do you want a platform that facilitates your creativity? Do you want a platform to just hang out on your couch and listen to? Is it a combination? Are that like different times of the day that you do different things with music? And that kind of information will facilitate like a new kind of music agency that will deliver the right kind of content to the right people. And there's a very dynamic, so it needs to be a dynamic company with data analysts and with people who can still fall in love with that great track from that great singer-songwriter. So you need that combination of a good feel about music, and on the other hand, just like hard data where you can just grasp as many as you can and combine that. But that's the new reality.
We have to talk about that someday, because I that would make a great show. That I'd love to talk. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about what the new age music distributor as a career looks like. I mean, you would be able to talk about that really well. Yeah, we'll put something together and do that. But yeah, I'll let you go pretty soon. But it's amazing to me that you actually met the CEO, president of this longtime media company in Barcelona, and they're in your home country.
No, but well, that always happens to me. Like when you travel, you meet, well, maybe Dutch
Yeah.
people travel a lot. I don't know. But
Yeah.
the good thing is that one of the things that I knew up front from all the participants at the Future Music Forum in Barcelona, which is, by the way, a really, it's a small event, but it's only, all the participants are people that come there because they want to know what's next, and they want to contribute. I haven't met anybody at that event that was looking back at how cool the 90s were. Something like, I was a big time hotshot, and we sold like millions of CDs in the 90s. No, everybody's very focused on what can I do together with you to make this a better place, to help musicians to grow new business models. And when I met her in Barcelona, I instantly knew that was the reason why she was there. To get new ideas, to transform her traditional music publishing company into a 2.0 or 3.0 kind of environment where user generated content and traditional models work hand in hand and create beautiful new content
Oh,
with
that's
the
wonderful.
with the content owner or the content maker, the creator in the middle. Everything evolves around that person that creates beautiful content, but it can be your next door neighbor, and it can be a well-known, famous artist that has been around for the last 20 years.
Yeah. No, that's
Both.
wonderful. Wow. Well, good luck to you there, Hessel. I think you're really making probably in your mind small strides, but small strides to the right direction to find out where will this business model eventually settle, for a little bit. So anyway, I really appreciate your time, man. I know you have to.
You're more than welcome.
So anyway, how can, as we always end the show here, how do listeners get a hold of you and get a hold of Tribe Music and this new service called for businesses, Bizmusiq?
Yeah. So let's start with the last one. Bizmusiq was launched in the Netherlands recently. We're growing the business model now also to other countries. So everybody who's interested as a participant, as a distributor or reseller, or somebody who just want to learn more about the model to see if it works in their part of the world, just go to Bizmusiq, which ends with a Q, not a music with a C. It's like the IQ from
Yeah,
intelligence service.
makes
So
sense.
bizmusiq.com. How to get hold of me is with just via email or the website of Tribe of Noise. So Hessel, Hessel at tribeofnoise.com. And we're always on the lookout for startups, like people with great ideas. One of the things I really want to develop in the near future is like a API portal going into all the data that we have, so that if people have like crazy new ideas that I want to test drive with content or with content creators, be my guest. We really need other people's ideas to build new businesses, because what you just said like a couple of minutes ago, like good luck with that business model, and hopefully it will rest for a while, or at least flourish for some while. Business models go faster and faster and faster. There's no linear thought anymore in business models, so we need multiple access points and business models to test drive. So anybody with new creative ideas that they want to test with our content or our people, connect with us. And of course, last but not least, anybody who makes great content, music or whatever, just go to tribeofnoise.com and see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I do a lot of videos, but not of the scale of anything that millions of people are going to watch. But I use Tribe of Noise. I mean, if I need a intro overlay or whatever, I use Tribe of Noise. It's a great quality music. High bit rate stuff. I mean, it's just wonderful. So anyway, yeah, thanks so much again, Hessel, for joining us today. Anyway, that was Hessel von Oorschot, the chief noisemaker, as they call him, which is called the CEO in this country, but we call him the chief noisemaker over there in the Netherlands, of Tribe of Noise, a platform helping musicians, indie musicians especially, and media professionals connect. And that's really what he was saying earlier. They're a service that connects people with other people to create even bigger media projects. So anyway, please register on tribeofnoise.com and get some great indie music and for one of your media projects. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Greg Blair, aka Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful. Hey, Hessel, have a great day, and we'll catch up with you soon, okay?
Perfect. See you next time. Bye-bye.